We're live.
Okay, we're going. LostCompass podcast.
Yeah. You had a whole spiel you were going to do.
So I'll introduce you. All right. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the LostCompass podcast. Today, I'm sitting down with a childhood friend, but also someone who's up here training for the next month for our upcoming 100-mile race down in McCall, Idaho. So my buddy Jusup is here, and we're like stoked to have him. So what up?
What up? I think I'm going to be sitting down with Kenzie too, and she's going to interview me as well. The format of this was just not necessarily interview, but just BSing, right?
Yeah, just talking about, I guess our past a little bit, and then what we've been doing with training, how we've been bouncing stuff off of each other, your perspective coming into training as somebody who's new to ultra, and really jumping. I have
never done a race ever.
Yeah, that's what I mean, like very new.
Not even a 5K.
Well, and not even have crewed or like been to one of these things. So a true like new perspective.
A noob. As Waylon would say.
Yeah, it's going to be kind of a wild event. And even these things are crazy, and I've been looking at them for 5 years now. And so I have this really good idea of what we're getting into. And the good thing that you have is that you have this very flexible mindset and this ability to like accept these challenges and do well at them, you know?
I think that, like, we were talking about it on the run the other day. I said, like, I am mentally ready. I have no doubt in my mind that we're going to hit some of the like hardest things that I have ever had to go through, but like I've hit those before. And, you know, when we climbed the Grand together, or when I did the calendar club, like every time you hit those moments that are like new pain and you still have to push through it, like the pain is the same. Like what we're going to experience here, it'll still be the same.
Yeah.
I'm sure it'll be terrible. Like, you know, I'm not trying to undermine it, but I think like the mentality that it takes to push through it will be the same.
Yeah. No, it's definitely I think a muscle that can be built and something that can be calloused.
Yeah.
Like going through tough, painful stuff because
in the mind, we're talking about callousing the mind.
Correct.
Like not
not just your feet,
which we're doing a lot of that too.
Well, I think it was last week I had an interesting conversation with Bobby, my brother, who's done tons of these things.
Yeah.
And he's moved on into the 200-mile races, which is a whole different beast.
Yeah, I know.
But I had a conversation with him because I've just been so interested. Now he's done like over a dozen of these 100 miles, right? And that has to build some kind of confidence without being cocky about it.
Yeah.
That you're just like, I've gone through so many different lows and different experiences through each one of these races. That has to give you some kind of confidence going into a race, knowing that like I can give it whatever effort I have for the next 30 plus hours if I need to.
Has he ever attempted to do 100 after his first one? Has he gone out to do one and not finished?
No, he's never not finished a race.
Interesting.
You know, he's had bad knee pain and foot pain and all, and chafing and like stuff that, shut a lot of people down. Just
last weekend I did 41 and a half, which was the furthest I had gone. So this is going to be fun. Yeah. But the point was like I was using it as a training day and a lot of things went wrong. A lot of things were not good. And when I was called you afterwards and I was like, I think a good training day is a bad training day, right? Like, definitely. I want those things to go wrong in the sense of like, it's going to be inevitable. I'm expecting things to go wrong at this 100-mile, or like you could do everything right and something new is going to pop up. But now I've experienced when shit happens, I just keep going. And so I think that's the thing is like, I've done enough challenges or runs or things where things have gone bad that it's just inevitable that like, okay, here's a new variable that popped up that we just have to push through. I've, gone with every blister. My feet look disgusting. David Goggins' feet over here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just a constant, just like, I feel like that's the biggest thing that I've been training for. I mean, obviously long miles and the vert, it's gotten easier over I came from Florida, so
Yeah.
I thought I was ready, and then I went up vertical,
some mountain.
and I was like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah, but you grew up down in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, so you know what it's like to climb mountains.
But I don't think we did anything like this. Like, I mean, and this is something I want to talk about. Is like, I mean, we were climbing stuff though when we were young. Like, we went out camping. I want to say we were like 13. Remember when we went up?
Yeah, we went backpacking.
Yeah, where did we go? What was it called? Do you remember? It's irrelevant to most of you.
Mosquito Creek.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah.
There is a Mosquito Creek.
I think it was
there.
No Tell 'em Creek.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Either way, so my mom, I think your parents were fine with it, but like my mom dropped us off. You and I were like maybe 13 at most.
Yeah.
And we had packed up way more stuff than we needed.
For like an overnighter.
Yeah. So, and we went out backpacking in the wilderness, in the woods.
Yeah. It was probably like 5 miles back. We had to climb up and over this mountain and then drop down into this other side into this creek.
Like when I look back and reflect on it now, especially being a parent, like there aren't a lot of kids that are just going alone. We figured it out.
Yeah.
There was freaking coyotes. I remember we didn't even sleep in a tent. We had a tarp over. We had,
it was like a little lean-to.
Allie was with us, or Jet?
Maybe it was Jet, the dog, lab.
So we brought Will's dog. We, just had to kind of like a tarp over us. And then we had taken turns, because we started hearing like noises at night. And we had also, I remember we set up camp, we found camp, and we climbed up that mountain because there's like, we just went exploring. And I think we saw like signs of mountain lions. Yeah. And so then all night we were taking turns keeping the fire going, stoking it. It was like
we did like shifts throughout the night.
We were 13.
Which is funny because you have a
12-year-old.
Yeah, you have a 12-year-old.
I can't even imagine. Just was like, go. Good luck.
Good luck out in the mountains.
Yeah, but I think a lot of that molded us and trained us to do what we are doing now. Like I have friends that grew up in cities and stuff like they're terrified. We're out here running at night. I mean, I did runs in the mountains in Jackson a couple weeks ago in complete dark and like zero fear.
Yeah, I feel comfortable.
Yeah.
And same thing. I grew up hunting and fishing and especially hunting, like you spend a lot of time in the mountains in the dark, which is, a lot of people don't know that, but like you're moving into certain positions in the dark and then you're waiting for sunrise to come so that you're at a position that maybe you can see certain animals or something, Right. And then you hunt all day long and then you come out in the dark so that potentially any animals, like you're not spooking them out of there. Like you're moving out of the dark so you're not seen. So I spent a lot of times in the dark in the mountains and you learn to get pretty comfortable with it,
Yeah. We also spent a lot of time dirt biking. As far as running, I never ran. I would say we were active, but not this type of active by any means.
No, definitely not. Like I was into conventional sports a little bit later on. Like
I was in extreme sports, not
but like
extreme in this.
We grew up with motocross and riding supercross and like having this crazy fun passion for it, and rode a lot. And then as I started getting more into school, I got into football and, like I said, conventional sports and. And I've mentioned this before, but like running was our punishment.
Yeah.
And
I hated running.
Yeah. Well, most people do.
I still don't enjoy it.
Right. Yeah. Most people do hate running. I think you find as an adult though, you look for these certain challenges still in your life. You're not presented with like recreational sports all the time. Like, yeah, there's clubs and stuff like that, but like you're kind of always looking for something. At least some people are. Yeah. Whether you're signing up for your first 5K or whatever you're doing, like something to keep you motivated to train and stay fit and healthy. And running really just meshes well with my life. Like I'm still moving around in the mountains a lot. Like we backpack and hunt.
I mean, you definitely are more outdoorsy just by nature than I am. Yeah. I mean, I spend a lot of time on computers and dealing with a lot of that stuff. I would call me not outdoorsy. I love spending time outside. For sure. I love
you're
nature.
Always up for the challenge, especially if it's like can be an adventure or something that's like a highlight point of your life or something where you can be like, that was cool.
Yeah. Like you edited that video, Why Ultra, and presented the question for me to answer, like, why ultra? And I mean, in general, I think running, I started doing it because I hated it and that's over the last course of the last 5 years or since 2016. So was that 8 years, 7 years? Either way, I've put myself in positions to toughen me up, which is interesting to say because I don't think like I was weak by any means. I definitely went through like really hard shit as a kid, and I was hit by a snowmobile and was in a wheelchair for several months, had to relearn how to walk and stuff like that. So like that stuff put me at a rock bottom that definitely, or it takes a ton of strength to pull yourself out of that.
Mm-hmm.
But for some reason after that, I then started putting myself in positions that like I could actively push myself to become tougher. And it was like living in the cabin in the mountains. I mean, that is not an easy lifestyle. Like
No.
our heat was off of wood, and we're talking about in Montana where it's like -40 for months at a time. Like you have that. I had to snowplow everything. I'm a single dad. Like and I was running my own business. There was a lot of things that literally forced me to make it work, to eliminate excuses and just keep going. And then I continued to do that. It was like after that wasn't enough. I start running and building this discipline, and I've done challenges since then where it's like I think the longest plank, and you watched me, it was like 27-minute plank.
Yeah.
And I like now have found myself putting me in these really hard things to ultimately toughen me up, to build this resilience, to build, and I guess it goes back to like what Bobby, you're saying, like callousing the mind, and you're constantly just like pushing through these limits.
Yeah. I have a question. So I guess I kind of got my...
That was nice and graceful.
Yeah. I kind of got my motivation to try ultra from watching my brother do it. When you started doing any kind of like high mileage running or like consistent running, I thought it was probably the Calendar Club. Was that your first time where you really got into
running?
Yeah, kind of
no. So yes, that was long miles and stuff.
What is the Calendar Club for those?
Yeah. So the Calendar Club was basically it's like you do a mile equivalent to the day of the month. So April 1st, 1 mile, April 30th, 30 miles, and you do the entire month. And over COVID, during the lockdowns, there was a group of us. Colin O'Brady put this together. So Jesse Itzler, and you can look up both of these guys. Jesse Itzler he's an entrepreneur that also does ultra stuff, and he's crazy. He's constantly pushing the limits while also has a very, very successful business. His wife is very successful. He is the one that initially did this Calendar Club, and then Colin and him were partners on the 29029. And so Colin decided, hey, we're going to do this as a collective because of the lockdowns. There's like something that we can all do. And then they offered to donate up to 10,000 meals for first responders based on people finishing this thing. They had no idea that 1,200 people would sign up to do this around the world. And a lot of people did their own things. Like some people did it in planks, like minutes in planks. Some people did it in push-ups. Like there wasn't everybody that was just running. It was just a real cool way at a time where people were like, hey, you're locked down. You can't do anything.
Something to do.
And a lot of people went and binged Netflix, and then here's 1,200 people around the world that were like, I'm going to rise to a challenge and do something crazy. I decided as a strategy, I was going to attempt to do it backwards, because if I start with the hardest and then it gets easier every day, that's the best way to do it. That was not the best way to do it, because it was pretty much off the couch. The furthest I had ever ran leading up to that was, I think, 5 miles. And at that time, I wasn't like super, I wasn't running. So I did 30 miles. The first 20 destroyed me. Like literally destroyed me to the point where I was, it was the first time like I was brought to tears while running. And then I called my assistant Amy at the time. She's a good friend and was my assistant. And I was like, I can't move. Like, you got to come pick me up. And so picked me up. It was like 19 and a half miles. I was not about to quit. So I iced. I took some ibuprofen and Tylenol, which you could take both because they're different, processed differently. And then I iced and raised my legs because I knew I still had 10 miles to get done. And so I immediately did that, try to reduce as much inflammation as possible. And then I went and did the rest of the 10 miles. And I think I finished at like 2 a.m, but I counted it because I pushed through. And then the next day I was like, I had to start at 2. And then I went 2, 3, 4, normal with everybody else.
Did you finish 30 at the end?
I didn't.
Okay.
I did not, no.
So
but I didn't finish 30, but I was still like 10 or something like that. And most of them were what was supposed to be easy, like a 2-mile day, then became hard. And I guess to go back to your question, that was the first time that I realized like that month felt like a lifetime. Like it felt like its own start and finish life cycle because I was so focused on just that. And I had to, because I was dealing with pain. I was dealing with so much stuff that in order for me to actually accomplish it, I had to shut everything off. And that was what I was focusing on.
Every day it consumed your life and your thoughts.
Yeah.
Because you had to do it every day.
Get the miles done as they were starting to increase. I wasn't recovered. Like I had massive shin splints. So then I had to like, all right, well, now I need to start the rest of the time that I'm not doing these miles. I would start splitting them up 1 mile and then ice and then 1 mile again or however, just to try to get through it. And I did a lot of walking more than running as I was recovering. But
time on feet.
Yeah. And so basically, though, like you said, it consumed me because it's way more than just the miles. It was everything else of like, how do I recover? Yeah. How do I strategize? Like, I have to finish this. I would say was the first time that I dealt with something so intense that I pushed me through a pain cave that I like found out where my limitations were. That was the long-winded answer.
Yeah. Well,
we are on a podcast.
It was deserved because that was, I would imagine that would be hard.
It was, and I think I am very grateful that it happened in a time with lockdowns because imagine like trying to do your day-to-day work stuff like that. I just don't know.
Yeah.
I know it's possible. I don't want to say like, I don't know if I could do it because I know I would have figured it out. Just like that's now what we're building, doing everything we're doing. Yeah. But being the only focus, it was a good introduction into like real pain caves.
Yeah. That was a nice introduction because the real pain cave is coming. The real pain cave. What do we got? 3 weeks?
We have 24 days.
Our kind of schedule looking over these next 3 weeks, it'll be like, have a good solid week this week, finish up with some decent miles, maybe 1 more week of solid training next week, and then it's 2 weeks of really 1 week of taper, and then the last week is kind of game week, where you're prepping gear. You're really not getting that many miles, and we might get a handful of miles, but you're just kind of...
So you know what's interesting, and I haven't told you this yet, but I was talking to Nels. And for those of you who don't know who Nels is, Nels Matson is a guy that I met in Florida who is training to run across the country to beat the world record, which is like absolutely insane. That makes everything we're all doing just like feel small. 75 miles, basically 15 hours a day for 42 days straight. Like that makes the calendar club look like nothing.
Yeah.
But I was talking to him, and he did the 6 days in the dome, and he was talking to the guy that has like won them quite often, and he does no tapering for them.
Yeah,
it's like he believes that you just always should be ready.
Yeah,
and it's interesting, and he wins these.
Yeah,
so I think what I find interesting is clearly the strategy is different. Most people taper and do that, and then here's a guy that's winning that doesn't. And so it's very easy to be like, wow, this is the route that you have to take, and then there's somebody that's winning and not. And it's just interesting for me to think about because there is no right path.
No, it's so individualized and personalized. And it takes a lot of time to figure out what works for you, though.
Learning yourself.
I bet that guy didn't just all of a sudden say, oh, well, if I don't taper, I feel better. I bet he had a couple weeks, I bet he did dozens of races where he tapered, or maybe he tapered too long or too short, or and then finally kind of found what worked for him, And I think that's what I've done too, is found that like, I feel better when I have a little bit of an itch to run, because I feel like I'm not good if it's like super, like you don't want to be lethargic those last couple weeks. You want to stay active, like hiking and stuff like that, and still get out on the trails, but keeping impact down so you're not actually breaking down like muscle and causing inflammation in your joints and stuff like that. So bringing the impact down or the intensity down, and then still keeping up with the consistency.
Yeah. Which again, that something works for you.
Yeah, I've bought into it.
Yeah. And people who are, I think self-awareness and just like self-analyzing means more than reading any book or reading what anybody else does. Like, sometimes I almost feel like looking externally can impact you, because we were talking about it with like physical therapists and people who get their education on books. Like sometimes that doesn't translate into a lot of people who...
Well, real world experience almost is the best. Like firsthand experience is going to be the best teacher for you. And me and you could go through the same experience, but your perspective on it, my perspective on it could be completely different.
Yeah.
We could do the same taper or something. I'd be like, race day, I feel great. And you're like, my legs feel heavy. I feel terrible. I shouldn't have done it like that.
Yeah.
But it takes time to know those things.
And this is my first one, so I won't know.
Yeah.
So we'll find out if it was good or bad.
Yeah. I think you should just go like with your instincts. Like if you feel like, oh, I think I should keep up my miles a little bit, then I think you should go with that.
I haven't missed a single day in 350 days. Yeah, I think it's like 351 days now.
Coming up on the full year.
Yeah. The problem is like doing it every single day, and then when I started off, I had no idea about running or right shoes or anything like that. And then I have arthritis in my big toe. And so the physical, basically, I ended up getting plantar fasciitis, whatever.
Fasciitis.
Which is killing me every single day. It just is like extreme amounts of pain. And we're going into this race with this plantar fasciitis. And like realistically, I don't think there's going to be a way for me to get rid of it prior to this. Yeah.
Just going to accept it.
Yeah. And that's kind of where I'm at, is like, ideally that would be the best thing I could do, is try to heal it. But I just don't think that's going to be realistic.
Yeah.
Now it's just going in with confidence, really. I think it's a mind game at this point.
No, 100%. That'll go a long ways, actually.
On a run yesterday, I told you, like the first 2 miles, it was miserable. And then I was like, oh, all of a sudden my foot feels better.
Yeah.
Just took a little bit of moving around, but it came back. Don't worry.
Yeah. That's what you find with Ultra too. Even if you're not starting out with like something bad, you're like, you'll go through waves and phases of like pain or like, might mess with some ghost pains where you're like, I think my knee hurts, but I'm not sure. Like, or phantom pains. You'll hear him talk about phantom pains.
There's ghosts out there?
There may be ghosts later in the race as your mind starts to get tired.
I hear there's a goshawk, Goshawk, There's a goshawk.
A goshawk?
Yeah, like the bird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, a hawk.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's spelled Gosha.
It's not goose?
No.
Okay.
But because it says in the race manual that there's the
type of animals you're going to see out there.
But the bird that apparently will attack you. If you look in the race manual that they just sent us, it says it's real, and you're supposed to be quiet when you go through because the bird will apparently attack you.
Yeah. So this is down in McCall at our race, and the race director, they're kind of starting to send out all the information on the aid stations and the course and all this stuff. And one of the descriptions is in there saying that like it's actually like caused people to bleed. This hawk has attacks these trail runners as they run by this certain section of the course, and it's kind of remote, and it's actually attacked the race director a few times as he's flagging the course and like caused him to bleed. And so
watch out for it.
I'll definitely be looking up.
We've talked about all of the intense stuff, but it's kind of funny how it's like we also still enjoy like sailboating. I mean, I think we've talked about it multiple times. I'd love to do a circumnavigating around the globe with you.
Or,
is that a lifetime goal for you? Something
a circumnavigation?
Yeah.
I would say that's definitely a lifetime goal. Probably a sooner goal was just to be maybe like a transatlantic crossing, or something.
Just get on the ocean.
Just get on the ocean. You know, so we have a lot of sailors around here. We're up here on Lake Pend Oreille, in Bayview, Idaho, and it's a huge lake. But we have a lot of sailors who really just want to get over to the Puget Sound and experience the San Juan Islands over near Washington. That just never really intrigues me that much. I have this like vision of doing some big offshore blue water sailing, you know, and I honestly want to do it sooner than later, even just go experience whether I charter with somebody or get out on the ocean to see if I actually really want to get out there and do that before I spend the next like 5 or 10 years prepping whatever, you know, my life to finally get out there and be like, actually, I hate this. I don't foresee that.
Yeah.
But I want to still go do it like sooner than later.
I mean, I think as much as like I would love to just be like, yeah, this is what we're working towards to achieve. But I mean, we've done a lot of things, both of us, that are vastly different and like more of experiential, that it's like just the new experiences of a lot of these things, at least personally, what drive me. I mean, it gets hard, as gorgeous as it is living in Montana, like I still want to move around. I still want to travel. It gets really hard to just be stationary and not see things and not experience new things because there's so much out there. And I mean, granted, like we live in some of the most beautiful places. We grew up in Jackson Hole, which even when I come back, it's just like mind-blowing how beautiful it is. I still find these experiences traveling the world and learning from different cultures and even going to the cities in different places that are not typically like what I'm into. I don't love the city, but like, man, is that experience of experiencing things like what other people experience. It just, I almost feel like rounds me out, and I love to learn. Yeah. And, you know, if I get stuck in this, like, oh, I'm going to do one thing and learn one thing only, it gets really hard.
Yeah. I'm very much like you. I need that change and that constant, that's honestly what keeps me feeling like I'm still living well and growing, is that change, you know, and that's whether that's through travel or experience or whatever. Like,
and you haven't even really traveled yet.
No.
Wait till I know.
No, I know.
That's
which it's funny. Like, I feel like, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this. I think as humans, we obviously are these semi creatures of habit, right? Yeah. We like our comforts of home. I like my routine that I develop in the mornings when I wake up here at my house. You like these routines, which really conflicts with being someone who's maybe a nomadic traveler, you know, but you have to almost be, we call it like a Gumby mindset, a flexible mindset of being like, how can I still do these things, these comforts or my own disciplines or whatever they are, you know, my routines, but while traveling and experiencing. I think you can't hold so tight to those routines. You have to be more flexible with those if you're going to really go out there and enjoy, or else you won't enjoy it. You know, if you're like, well, I can't have this, my toast and my coffee and my, and this, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think like one of the things that I learned while traveling was it activates a kind of different piece of my mind. Like, rather than like just, throw you in a country where you don't speak the language, you're now having to navigate it. Like every single day feels like an adventure and a puzzle. Like you have to figure things out, and you have to figure out what's fun and cool to see. And it's getting a lot easier when you have, you know, apps that you can literally hold up and it translates the signs and stuff like that. But literally, like, you can have the menu and it just hold up the app with the camera and it translates the whole thing.
Yeah, which kind of takes you away from maybe some of the cultural experience.
A little bit, yeah. I notice it activates a different piece of my brain that makes me just like, everywhere I'm going, you almost remember it so much more because of the fact that it's different. Yeah. It's so vastly different. Yeah. And then you also get to go to these places and you see that, like, their values and their belief systems and the things that they do and function on a daily basis is very different than what we believe over here in America, and yet they're functioning.
Yeah.
They're still do. So it makes you question, well, wait a second, maybe my way of thinking isn't the right way, which is what I think Americans get really stuck in, is like our way or the highway. And then you just go and learn all these things from other people, and you're like, wait a second.
Well, being worldly will give you, I think it would probably develop more compassion and understanding, and just a lot of things that you could just bring back even to your own home life.
Yeah.
You know, when you go out and experience the world and you see either other people's hardships or maybe conditions they live in or what they get by with so little, I think you come back with a new perspective of things. Like, yeah, like we actually have it really good, and we should be more thankful, you know. And I'm as bad as anybody, man. Like, I mean, I take stuff for granted all the time.
Yeah, I mean,
you know, I think
like even when you're in Mumbai, India was just so vastly different to see how many people have so little and like don't have shoes and things, and yet there's some people that are just still so happy,
and they'll give you
literally.
Yeah.
But I think it's also different because, you know, you go in America and now you can go down to Venice Beach, and Venice Beach to me feels and looks like Mumbai. Like it's looking very sad, and there's so much homeless there.
But even the homeless, it's a different mindset and perspective, because
it's a lot different.
there's a lot of like political things even where it's just the mindset is different. Like some of these people in these other countries, they're living that way. Kind of that's just because some of it's just the culture.
Yeah.
And like some people here actually choose to go be homeless because sometimes they can get like have a better life, you know.
Yeah. Well, it's like, I think that's the thing is nowadays it's almost hard to generalize any country even itself, because like you do have so many different people here, like different types of homeless people, different types of successful people, different types of political beliefs. Like just in America, we have so many different types of people. And I think that's also something that we don't ever think about is like, yo, maybe people just want different lives. Like we have gone around so much being like, my way is the right way. And in reality, like a lot of people don't really give a shit about material things, and other people do, and some people don't care about experiences. And I think
that's okay.
Yeah. And we sit there and we're like, well, that's the wrong way then. What? Yeah. Who's to say? Yeah. I mean, we spend, like, you look at meat eaters who make fun of vegans, and then vegans get pissed off at meat eaters, and it's like, yo, like, why are we trying to change each other's? We all have like our causes, and I guarantee you, if I pick, you might be the most righteous person, but if I dig deep, there's something you're doing that somebody else has a cause for, you know, it's when we get to these like self-righteous, I'm better because I'm doing more for the planet, and it's just, I don't know. I think we all have our causes.
Wait, you still drink out of straws?
Turtles. But yeah, like the point is like, who's to say my cause is better than your cause? And I think in reality, we as human beings need to almost develop more compassion and just individually try to do better. Like that's what I think fundamentally just falls down to, like, how do we individually try to do better instead of going around going like, yo, my cause is better than yours. You are a piece of shit because you're not following my cause. And, you know, like some things, like if they don't affect me, it doesn't mean as much to me because it is not something that is impacting me. But there's something else that might be that I am very passionate about. Like, I don't know. I think we all just are. There needs to be like less judgment and more supportive of each other, trying to be better and trying to make a better place for everybody.
Like some people have maybe old school mindsets or whatever, and they just hold on to those, you know, so bad. And so if you're trying to maybe go a different route or do something else, like they want to snap at you and bite at you, and you're like, it's okay to like we just said, like you just said, maybe it's okay to let go of some of that a little bit. Or if maybe what I'm doing is not even directly affecting you, why would you care so much?
Yeah.
Why do you care?
It's like gay rights and some of this stuff, like we politicize it and use it as a weapon to sit there and pick. It's like, I don't care what people do. Like, go do your own thing.
Do your own thing.
And then you have two groups that are either like politicizing it on either side, using it as this is bad or this is like the only way. And it's like, dude, I just don't care.
People love to be a part of a team, right?
Yeah.
To root for a team or a side.
And what the problem is then it becomes teams and you're either for it or against it. And it's like, well, I'm indifferent. Like, I just don't care. Like, I want you to just be happy and do your own thing. Why do I have to either A, support it or hate it? Like, why do I have to do either?
In that, even if you say, I don't really care, then you get in trouble for that. Like, they're mad at you for that. You're like, listen, I don't really care what you do. They're like, yeah, you don't care. That's the problem. Like, well, I just don't care. I don't care to be... You don't bother me with whatever you're doing.
And somebody's gonna cut this up and cancel me for saying that right
Probably.
now. But the thing is like all the things that we are doing are building a mindset that is like of accountability. Like, we're not victims. And I can say this as somebody who's gone through like literally pulling myself out from severe depression. Like, I tried to kill myself twice when I was in, I say that loosely, but I didn't try to kill myself. I was definitely not trying to live. And then I spent like a week in a hospital for suicidal thoughts when I was in high school and 16. So like I pulled myself out of severe depression and anxiety. Then I was hit by a snowmobile. And also in that same time when I was 16, like I have severe degeneration in the discs of my spine and a cyst on my spine, which is filled with a bunch of spinal fluid. I've had like dozen procedures on my back. Then I got hit by a snowmobile. So like I've gone through real hardships and things, and I don't want to like minimize what anybody's going through, but like you look from the outside in and you see, oh, this guy is preaching positive mindset and doing all these things, and it's easy for him to say.
Must be nice, right?
Must be nice.
The old Cameron Haynes quote.
And the thing is like we don't know what anybody's had to go through. And it's almost, to me, undermining when somebody says things like that, because like, do you know how hard it was to do all that? Do you know how hard it was to pull myself out of that? I grew up in Wyoming, and then I went to school in Idaho, and I listened to a lot of hip hop music. I used to get teased for listening to it because it wasn't cool.
Wasn't country.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's so many. I was bullied and went through all of that. So like when people, I am fully supportive of having some sort of accountability. So it goes back to like being tough. Of as much as people want to bull or chastise the bullying, I'm not saying that bullying is good by any means, but I think there is, if we put all of the responsibility on the bully being better, then it takes the accountability that we can build within ourselves that builds that strength. And I mean, trying to pick my words carefully here.
Well, yeah, but and I think even on that is, so we both have sons. My son's 6, your son's 12, and I think the biggest thing that I want to teach my son is it's okay to like try things and put yourself out there, but like you never don't feel bad for yourself, like be strong and be compassionate, but don't ever feel bad for yourself because of your circumstances or whatever. Jocko has that extreme ownership book. People look at maybe guys like him and think like, well, that guy's like super old school mindset. It's not like an old school mindset to just be accountable for your own actions and your own feelings and your own reactions to stuff, so people are so explosive these days. Yeah. And then if you get your feelings hurt, they just want to lash out immediately instead of reflecting.
Ultimately doing the same thing that they're chastising the other person for doing. Yeah. And then it becomes this cycle. Yeah. Like it's just like,
it's vicious.
Yeah. You do or somebody does something mean to you, then you do something mean to them, and it's like just back and forth, and nobody's right now. Yeah, nobody is.
But I think what people would start to learn if they really were able to like control themselves more is that when you can not snap back, you realize that the actual power lies within you.
Oh, 100%.
And you feel actually like, I mean, because you're looking for some kind of satisfaction of whether you're going to say something rude or whatever you're going to say back. But when you don't say something rude and you think about it and you're able to calm yourself and you can have this own self-control, you actually feel like you did get one on them.
Yeah,
because
totally.
you're like, I can control myself and you can't.
Yeah.
That's kind of what it feels like. And that's not trying to be like spiteful towards them or whatever, but like you're going to, and ultimately you'll find that, again, that's another thing that can be developed in more situations that come with life. Like I really hate dealing with people in conflict. Like I really do.
Yeah,
it's just like, and sometimes it can like bug me out and get to me and stuff. And like, I really have to try to be very present and calm myself down because I'll get all worked up because somebody else is worked up. And I really have to try to be very present to get ahead of that before I'm just reacting. And it's very difficult to do sometimes. Like you don't even realize it. You know, you just have to be so, again, you just have to be so present in that moment to actually gain control of the situation, not just lash out or whatever you want to say back, you know?
Yeah, and I think, like you said, it's just not being reactive. Like something I was talking to my son about is some advice that somebody gave to him about a bully was just do whatever they're doing to you 10 times worse. And I was like, that is terrible advice. Like it's so terrible. I'll get to why. But another meme that I saw going around was like, if you get a different energy from me, it's because like I give out the same energy that is given to me. And again, I think terrible advice. And that meme went viral. Like people were sharing it like, yeah, I'm give back the energy that I'm getting. And I think that's like a very weak mindset because the thing is the external shit that's happening to you should have no indication on your values and morals. Like that should not matter.
You should be led by a different set of rules.
So it has, I'm not saying this is easy by any means, but this is like what I strive to do as create a value system and a more moral beliefs that are not predicated on anything external. Like it doesn't matter what you do to me. If I do back to you what you just did, then I'm jeopardizing what I believe in and my value system just to step to your level.
Yeah.
It might hurt to let it go or do whatever, but having that fundamental value system to fall back on and go, does this align with how I believe? And I don't care what it is you did. You could be in the wrong. Who knows? But it doesn't matter because does it align with my value system? Do I respond to this in a way that does align with my value system? And then that is how I would then handle the situation. Like, so basically like with those bullies, I told Creasy, like, you have to develop this where if you think that you want to be the person that is also bullying somebody back, I don't care if they're a bully. I don't care anything about them. If you want to be a person that is also a bully, then it fits to it. But if you don't want to, if that's not the type of person you do, then I don't care what they do to you. You stay in your value system and you figure it out by staying in your value system because you don't jeopardize it based off of what anybody else is doing.
Right. Yeah.
That's real power.
Yeah. Yep. Totally. Going back to that, just that self-control and that awareness. It does put you in a different category, honestly.
They teach that in like martial arts and stuff as well of, the power isn't in beating somebody up because you can beat them up. Like you can defend yourself totally, but once they're disarmed, you don't continue. You don't keep beating them up just because you can. Yeah. You protect yourself and then you give them the compassion of like, all right, it was a mistake. Like you don't realize I could kick your ass. Yeah. Once the person's down and disarmed, you don't keep going. Yeah. At that point, you're not powerful. Yeah. You know, it's like just because you can beat somebody up doesn't mean you should.
Well, Peter Parker's uncle told him once, with great power. Comes great responsibility. I was hoping you were going to finish that.
Yeah, totally. But it just made me think of a couple of, I guess it's been a month now. I did a podcast interview with the guy who created Ethereum, which is, if you're into cryptocurrency at all or anything blockchain, like it's a big deal.
I thought Ethereum was a drug.
Yeah. And so it was a big deal this interview. Like, he's been interviewed by a ton of people. In middle of it, I asked him the question. I was like, you're building a lot of this technology that has like big implications on people's lives. And I came up with this quote that was, with great responsibility or great power comes great responsibility. I was like, I came up with that all by myself. And like, he didn't know whether or not to laugh or like, because I was very serious about it.
So he thought,
no, he didn't. Well, because
he thought that you actually thought that you came up with it.
Well, the other co-host started laughing, and then it finally, but I was like so serious about it because then I'm like, I came up with that.
Yeah, that's mine.
So
Marvel stole that from me.
That just made me think of that.
You're out here from Florida for the next couple weeks.
Yeah, I mean, you say from Florida. I've only been in Florida a year, but
you're full-time Floridian, retired. You're living in the old folks' homes down there.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, right? Because we're doing all these things for discomfort, and then I'm now gonna live this super comfortable life of going to Florida in the winter and trying to make it out in these mountains and this beautiful weather in the summers.
I think that's a good life.
Yeah,
that's called just being smart and creating what you want.
Yeah, totally.
You know, which is all. That's what we want to do. We want to take 4 or 5 months and actually be able to travel and do the things that we want to go do, and we want to go do these races or adventures or get on the ocean or whatever. It's freedom. Yeah. And you don't want to get categorized in this, like, there's like this mind, there's
the hippie or
no, I don't know. It's almost like a maybe like a millennial, like I don't want to work.
Non-committal.
Kind of. Yeah. But also I truly believe, and this comes from, I really believe in, like, I've had a couple buddies who have passed away recently, and it's like, 6 months ago I talked to this guy, and he was like, he had some cancer and stuff come up, but like I felt like, I don't know, I just talked to him, and then now he's gone. Yeah. And even I talked to him and I saw him like 5 years ago. It was like, where does that put me in 5 years? Like, did I do the things I want to do? Did I have experiences with my son and my significant other that I'm stoked about, and that they could carry on forever? Or or my dad or my family or my parents, like, am I doing things that actually, because if I just said, I work 60 hours a week, I make a lot of money, but I don't have time, or I don't make time to go have these experiences.
Like, my biggest fear is regret. Being somebody who like did deal with suicidal thoughts and stuff like that in the past, like, obviously death is I have a weird relationship with it in my head, but in reality, like, regret is the biggest fear, is not attempting to do the things that I want to do, not even trying. And so many people like go through life, and I think the more you spend with the people who are like, oh, I wish I would have done that, and now they're too old to even do it, because like, those are the moments when when it's too late, is when people start like going, oh, I should have done that. I could, like, and you see it so often that it's like, I don't want to fall in that category.
Well, I wish people were more open to like giving like advice to younger people and not like put people down.
Less judgment,
maybe. Like, if you're older and you didn't do the things that you wanted to do, maybe give some advice to people who are younger, maybe how to live a better life that's more fulfilled, not just give always the advice like, make sure you work really hard all the time. Like, also, like, you never hear, make sure you enjoy the sweet things of life. Yeah. You hear it a little bit by that generation who actually started to realize that, or those few people.
Well, it's like, I almost, there tends to be like two types of old people. Yeah. I don't want to categorize them all, but like, this is what I observe is like, you have people who are just so bitter that they don't talk or give any advice. It's just straight judgment and like, damn kids shaking their hips to Elvis. But like, they're very bitter and upset and stuff like that, and that they're not giving any advice. But then you do have some people that will say that, and it's like they realize how much it is that they.
And when I hear those people talk, like whether I have an old timer or something tell me like, hey, don't wait, go do this stuff.
Yeah.
That stuff impacts me more than anything. Like, I'm like, this guy's telling me, this guy who has lived through more life than I have is telling me like, don't wait to go do those things.
I struggle with my child is like, I try to tell him, I try to be very honest and open with him about what's happened in my life, because I don't necessarily feel like my dad was that way. It was a lot of like telling me how to do things and not like relating it from his experience. And
no reason why. This is just the rules. Or
and so with my son, I try to have a different relationship where like we had a conversation recently, and like I was just telling him, I'm like, dude, like I'm trying to get you to my mom was there, and she was just telling him like, your dad used to do that too. And it was like, I was trying to say like, I'm telling you, dude, you're going to regret. Like, you will regret, yes, I did do it this way. And like, I'm trying so hard to get you to hear me, because I'm telling you I hated it. I wish I would have did it differently.
It's like your future self telling you.
Yeah.
But you'll never see it like that. Like, I've gotten advice before from people. You know,
just like, yeah.
I'm like, yeah. And then till you go figure it out. And I think that's just human nature, you know?
I know, it's so hard as a parent, man.
Yeah, that's a whole podcast on itself.
I know.
Man. We should have a podcast about like being parents.
You know, and we're doing all of these things. We had a long conversation last night, and, you know, like both of our kids love video games and love something that is vastly different. Like they have zero care what we're doing.
Yeah.
And
I asked my son if he wanted to come watch me do this 100-mile race, and he asked if I was actually going to run 100 miles this time, which was kind of insulting for my 6-year-old, since I only made it 75 on my first attempt. And then he said, well, I'll just watch the YouTube video that you come out with. Okay. Well, it still means more to me when I see you at the aid stations.
Yeah.
You know?
Do you tell him that hurt you or disappoint you?
No, not really.
I've started telling Creasy.
Well, because especially a 6-year-old, like they can be manipulated a little bit, their feelings and stuff. You can be like, that hurts my feelings. And they'll be like, oh, okay, well, I do want to go then. You know what I mean? Like or you could be like you wouldn't want to say anything to hurt dad's feelings, right?
See, but that's different.
Manipulation.
Yeah. So like with Creasy, I just straight up told him just the other day, I can't remember what it was, but I just did. I was like, dude, like we're about to leave my parents' house, and he wanted to just go to I was on the 12-hour walk, the 41 miles just on Sunday. And he asked my mom, can I just have my mom pick me up? And I was gone on this thing. My phone is turned off. So she told him no, like, you got to say bye to your dad. He's going to be gone for a month and a half or however long we're going to be gone up here. And he was just ready to go. And I don't personalize it in the sense of like, I know he just wanted to play the video games. Like I know that's what it was, but I straight up told him, I was like, dude, just the fact that you thought that was okay, it kind of hurts. Mm-hmm. And like, and the thing is then his reaction was he got upset, and I'm like, bro, you can't get upset. Like I said, are you sorry? And he goes, yeah, I'm sorry. I'm like, but you don't even like, you don't understand what being sorry is. Like, I told him, I don't know, I'm not saying I know how that this is the right way to do it, but I felt that like communicating how I actually felt to him and that it did hurt my feelings is going to at least help him understand that sometimes the things that he does causes these things. And, you know, I think going back to accountability and not being a victim, it's in our control to whether or not we allow that to affect us. Mm-hmm. But I think that real communication is like letting somebody know, hey, when you do these things like that hurt me, and that's how I feel. And I think trying to express that to a child, especially, I mean, he's 12 versus your 6-year-old, but I want him to understand that like he will also have these feelings, and then he can also see me on how I react when I am hurt, because I don't go and hurt him because of it. And I think that's the big issue, is we try to protect our kids, and in reality, we're actually preventing them from learning real tactics and things that are going to happen in life.
Yeah.
And for example, like fighting, I know a lot of parents that won't fight in front of their children, and they'll like get in a fight, and then they'll realize like, oh, the child can hear, and then they're like, oh, let's hide it and stuff. So first of all, I personally think that's a terrible, terrible thing, because what ends up happening, and again, just my perspective and what I feel happens, is a child will grow up if the parents never fight in front of the child. And mind you, I'm not talking about like domestic abuse and like shit that is.
But you're talking about
serious.
like adult conversations that come up that are just like arguments.
Yeah, because that's gonna happen. So the issue is if parents never argue or fight, and I say fight loosely, but if they never do that in front of a child, then the child grows up thinking that conflicts don't happen, and then they don't have zero, like they get in a relationship and have a disagreement or an argument, and all of a sudden shit falls apart because they're like, what, my parents never fought?
Yeah.
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
They just didn't show you.
Yeah.
And the other side of it is like the kid feels it and they're confused as to why, like they'll feel that the fighting is happening, but they never see it. Or like the fight will start and then they realize the kid is in the room, and then the kid never sees the resolution, and all they see is fighting.
Yeah.
So I think like some of that, I think about it as a parent of like, how do I make sure that my son understands these situations, and instead of shielding it from him, like my job is to help him understand, hey, these things are going to happen in life, and here's the most responsible way to address them, or the conflict resolution to fix them.
Yeah. Some tools.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's stuff they don't teach in school. Like,
oh, yeah.
all right, Johnny comes up to you on the playground.
Yeah.
You know, he pushes you and tell you he doesn't like you and that he doesn't want to be your friend.
Instead, they actually like prevent that type of stuff. Like
which those are true life skills.
Honestly, conflict is healthy. Like it's in a certain level of bullying is okay.
As long as you know how to deal with it.
Yeah.
And you don't let it like fester. And
because I think we're just like, we're all so soft, and
no, you're right.
We're
100%.
Just,
yeah.
Yeah. And like, again, I do not condone bully behavior. Like that does not absolve a bully from doing dumb shit. Like if you do that, that's not fucking cool. But that doesn't mean it doesn't serve the person being bullied to act like a victim. It does not help you to use that as an excuse.
You're not becoming stronger.
Right.
You're not becoming a better, part of society by feeling bad.
And that's the thing, is the person dealing with it, it doesn't necessarily serve them to be a victim in that situation. Mm-hmm. Like if you let that dictate your life, you will not be able to grow. Things that I go through, I could have very well easily used all of those things that I went through as an excuse and let that define me, and it has zero effect. Like, we're doing something crazy. That's my new story. Yeah. I continue to write it every time we do something like this.
Yeah.
And, it doesn't matter. Like, again, whatever you're going through, being a bully, being oppressed, any of that, like that could be real, but does it serve you to be a victim?
I don't know. Do you have any final thoughts on how to wrap it up?
Real time working out how to structure the podcast. I mean, I think the thing is like, I'm ready for this race. Really exciting for me to do it with you, being childhood friends. Like you and I have both. I personally don't have a lot of relationships with many people. I have a lot of relationships. I don't have very, very strong relationships. Like I don't feel like I have a ton of friends. I know a ton of people. But like you and I have a lot of experiences and gone through a lot, both the highs and lows. Yeah. I'm excited that this is another thing to add.
Oh man, we've had so many laughs, man, about, I don't know, just different stuff. Like everybody has that like one friend, that just you got into trouble with them or you did shit.
So many stories.
Yeah, like so many stories. And so I'm just so excited to, like, I want us both to have our buckles, you know, have the I am tough buckles, sitting there hurting and just laughing at the shit that we go through, you know?
Yeah.
Because it's going to be a hell of an adventure.
Can I tell one story? It's about our the first entrepreneurial thing that we did at the recycling center.
Yes.
This is the first moment that I thought I knew I had entrepreneurial skills. When we were in high school.
Was it high school?
No, it was middle school.
It was middle
when
school.
we were in middle school, we would sneak out and we would ride our bikes to the recycle center and go through the recycling and get Playboys and the magazines that were thrown away and then sell them at school.
Yeah.
This was pre-internet. So
Yeah, pre-internet. So that was like hot commodity.
And literally like,
imagine the work that went into riding your bike all the way to the recycling.
And we snuck out. Like it was at night.
Yeah, and sneak out. So under darkness and then go through the recycling bins full of magazines.
And what's crazy is like, again, this is pre-internet days. So like we didn't see anything online that like gave us that idea. It was literally like the most creative, original idea of like, hey dude, I don't even know how we came up with it. But
people will buy these at school.
I know. And it was like, when you just look at it and analyze it, it was brilliant. There's zero overhead. The clear demand, like
a bunch of like middle school boys, and you're like, hey, I got some magazines.
That have never like seen
some of them,
that.
Yeah, some of them, like you said, internet wasn't around, so like they're like, if you saw like a dirty magazine, it was like, oh,
it was gold.
It was gold, and you feel like so and so has a dirty magazine, like.
So yeah,
that was legit entrepreneurship,
straight.
For sure.
And the other thing I want to mention, because we're going to be filming this race, but like Will and I have been filming things since like we were 10. Yeah. So, you know, like we're both putting a ton of energy into creating podcasts, creating YouTube videos. And I'm insanely proud to see him like editing these videos and telling stories, because that was kind of more of what I was always in. Like I was more on the creative side, and internally I was always had this little jealousy because you have always been a little bit better at the sports things. Like you were a little bit better at dirt biking. You were a little bit more like doing tricks at snowboarding and all of these things you're a little bit better at than me, but I was really good at making the videos. But it makes me super excited and proud to see every time one of these videos that you put out comes out, like your storytelling is getting great. And I want to say that's amazing. And then also just how like, it's cool to see that we're doing this, and we've been doing something since we were so young, making videos before vlogging was ever a thing. We were using these Sony Handycams and learning, when we learned the fade button internal.
It was big.
Oh man.
That was the new shot.
Yeah.
But that was like one and done. You had to get the shot, you know?
And I ruined a lot of shots.
Yeah, you would fade into it, and then like it had to be perfect to fade out, or else it was just like you weren't editing. There was no editing.
No, but we did learn to edit. Do you remember when we learned that you can connect the VHS to it, and then we can play a clip?
Yeah, that's right. You could record the VHS
and press play on the thing. So we were creating videos, editing.
That's true, man.
And literally taught ourselves all of this. Like nobody.
There's no YouTube University.
So I just wanted to bring that up because I think that this is super interesting, like seeing everything that we're coming back around doing and putting all of our passion into. I'm excited. We're going to make a bunch of cool, really cool videos off of this. And I'm going to beat you in the race so I can prove that I'm better at something.
I can't wait. Can't wait for that competition. When it comes like time when we like really need each other out there, and it's like dark or it's like 4 or 5 in the morning and we're hurting, you know, and you really need some help.
Yeah.
And I need some help.
And then
I
I'm like,
remember
later.
that you said that. As you take off in front of me, like, he called it. He said he was going to leave me. No, I honestly, like, I bother you all the time. And I say bother because I feel like I bother you, even though I'm not bothering you. But, like, I'm always asking you questions about editing and stuff like that, you know? So, like, because you're always, like, I feel like you're always 5 steps ahead of me on technology and like how to do stuff well. And because you truly take this profession seriously, you study it, you study other people, you do all these things, you know, that, and then I like come up and I'm like, hey man, like what's the best way to do this? And you already put all these hours to studying yourself, but then you just tell me, you know, so I'm thankful in that way that you're so willing to share everything that you learn, because I know the kind of time it takes to invest into learning this stuff and trying, and like how many mistakes you've made editing and that you just openly share with me so I don't make them. You know, like it saves me a lot of time, which that's helped me progress so fast. You know, I've really only been like going hard on YouTube for, well, not even that hard, like sort of part-time for 2 years.
Yeah.
You know,
but they've progressed significantly.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you look back on them. And I think everybody can look back if they're like serious and they're making videos and stuff. You can look back on your own videos and be like, some are kind of cringe, you know, but you can see them get better. And, but you've been a big part of that progression and like my own personal growth. And now I'm learning about podcasting from you because you have the Alpha podcast and, you do a fantastic job on that podcast. It's very entertaining. You talk to some amazing people, and you know we just started the LostCompass podcast. And
this is the first like video one, right?
This is the first video of the LostCompass podcast. So all this stuff I'm learning from you.
Yeah.
You know, so appreciate it, brother.
Of course, man.
Yeah.
I appreciate you having me on this too. And again, we're just another thing that we're going to be doing together here.
Yep.
The podcast, another video, another experience.
Yep. Here we are, mid-30s, still doing it.
Yeah. Early. We can call it early 30s.
Early 30s, yeah. I haven't broke the mid yet. Yeah, man. Well, Kinsey's going to be doing an actual sit-down podcast with Jusup, talking to him about all of his training and all of the stuff that he has coming up. Kinsey does a wonderful job interviewing, so she's a lot of fun, and she brings a good energy and a different energy.
Yeah.
But that was fun just to sit down and reminisce a little bit, and I don't know, just talk a little bit of shop about everything from running to parenting to whatever.
And we got 15 miles we're going to do today.
Now we got to go run because it's hot. It's like 97 degrees today, and we need to go get some training in. So that's all we got for you guys today.
Yeah, make sure to hit that subscribe button. You know the drill.
Yeah, that's right. That helps out the most, honestly. If you guys hit the subscribe button or you share, that truly is the best way to support us. You know, if you want to support any further than that and you want to do any kind of financial supporting, you can go over to patreon.com/LostCompass, and you guys can support there. That helps us get new gear and stuff like that so that we can keep producing new content, everything from stuff for YouTube to now the podcast. So
shout out Rick, the #1 Patreon subscriber.
That's right.
Supporter.
I got Rick out there. He's our #1 patron right now. We really appreciate him. Awesome dude. So, but thank you guys for listening today. That was a lot of fun, and tune in for the next one. Thanks.
Deuces.